I thought cheating on my boyfriend with my boss would stay a secret, until he found the hotel receipts, joined my office as a consultant, and ruined my reputation without raising his voice. I was lying in a hotel bed in my underwear when I realized I destroyed my 3-year relationship in about 45 minutes of weakness. My boss's arm was across my chest. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand, my boyfriend James asking where I was, if I was staying late at work again. And I just didn't care. That's the part that haunts me now. Not the guilt. Not even the cheating. The fact that for those few seconds, I felt nothing when I looked at his name. James and I had been together since college. He was stable, kind, boring in the way that made sense when you were supposed to be building a life. We lived together. We had talked about engagement. We had this perfectly functional relationship that felt like wearing the same sweater every day, warm enough, but you stopped noticing how much you want to take it off. Then David, my boss, started paying attention to me in a way that felt like finally being seen. He was successful, divorced, commanding in meetings, and he looked at me like I was the most interesting person in every room. It wasn't love. I know that now. It was ego. He made me feel like I was exceptional for the first time in years, and I was pathetic enough to confuse that with being special. My friends had been planting seeds for months. You could do better, they'd say, scrolling through their Instagram feeds full of girls my age with guys who look like they stepped out of finance commercials. James is nice, but is he exciting? Elena, my closest friend, kept showing me photos of guys from her firm, guys with better cars and better bodies and better stories. I'd roll my eyes, but I was listening. I was absorbing the message that settling for nice was settling, period. I was absorbing the message that I deserved more, that I was wasting my potential on someone who didn't make my pulse race. And when David started texting me late at night, asking my opinion on projects, finding reasons to close his office door when I walked in, I didn't shut it down. I leaned into it. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself I wasn't crossing any lines until the moment I crossed them. The affair lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of hotel rooms near the airport, of me leaving work saying I had errands, of David's hand on my lower back in empty hallways. I was meticulous about covering my tracks. Separate credit card. Burner phone for texts. I deleted everything. I told myself the lies that every cheater tells themselves, that James didn't need to know because it didn't mean anything, that what he didn't know wouldn't hurt him, that I was protecting our relationship by keeping it private. What I was really doing was poisoning it from the inside. I was the poison. The worst part wasn't the cheating itself. It was how easily I separated my two lives. I'd come home and kiss James while I was still wearing another man's cologne. I'd sit across from him at dinner and tell him about my day while leaving out the most significant part of it. I'd listen to him talk about his job, his dreams, his plans for our future, and I felt nothing but contempt. Contempt for him for trusting me. Contempt for myself for not being brave enough to end things before I destroyed them. I became someone I didn't recognize. I became someone who was capable of this kind of cruelty, and I did nothing to stop myself. James found the hotel receipt on a Tuesday in March. He wasn't snooping. It had fallen out of my work bag when I was getting dressed, and he bent down to pick it up. I watched the blood drain from his face as he read it. The date? The location? The room number? It was like watching someone's entire world crystallize into a single moment of clarity, and knowing I was the architect of that moment. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just looked at me with this expression of such profound confusion, like I was someone he'd never met before and was trying to figure out what species I was. Who? He asked quietly. I couldn't lie anymore. I was tired. I was sick of the weight of it. And some selfish part of me wanted him to suffer the way I'd been suffering, wanted him to feel what it was like to be betrayed by someone he loved. So I told him. I told him it was David. I told him how long it had been going on. And I watched him piece together how many times he'd asked me about David, how many times I'd mentioned staying late at the office, how many times he'd tried to include my boss in our life. He packed a bag that night. Not dramatically. Not with anger. Just mechanically, moving through our apartment like he was removing himself from a crime scene. He called his brother to pick him up. He told me he needed time to think, but we both knew he'd already made his decision. I'd made it for him months ago, the first time I got in that car to meet David at the hotel. I texted him for 3 days. Apologies, explanations, pleas for us to go to couples therapy. He didn't respond. On the 4th day, a lawyer's letter arrived. He was moving forward with separation. He wanted full details of our finances. He wanted me to know he was telling his parents, his friends, everyone who'd ever believed in us as a couple that I'd been unfaithful. The shame didn't hit me then. What hit me was the realization that I'd had my chance to do the right thing, and I'd chosen the easy thing instead. I'd chosen to keep my secret, and now my secret was going to define everything about how people saw me. I was right. David ghosted me within a week of James finding out. He didn't say goodbye. He just stopped responding to my messages, and when I tried to talk to him at work, he acted like I didn't exist. Later, I found out through office gossip that he'd never had any intention of leaving his ex-wife or getting serious with anyone. I was a conquest. A mid-level manager he could seduce to prove to himself that he still had it. And when things got complicated, he disappeared. He didn't care what happened to me. He'd gotten what he wanted, and now I was someone else's problem. The office became impossible. Word spread, I don't know who told or how, but suddenly everyone knew. Not just that I'd cheated, but who it was with, how long it had lasted, all the details I'd tried to keep private. Elena stopped sitting with me at lunch. My team started requesting reassignment. Guys who'd flirted with me before now made it clear they thought I was a homewrecker. Women whispered that I'd slept my way up. The irony was that I hadn't slept my way up, if anything, I'd slept my way down. Way down. Then James hired a lawyer who was ruthless. He documented everything, the hotel receipts, the timeline of my lies, text messages I thought I deleted but that apparently live forever in cloud backups. He moved for primary custody of our dog. Not because he needed to, but because he knew it would hurt me. And it did. That dog was the only living thing in my apartment that didn't look at me like I was a monster, and suddenly I could only see him on weekends if I scheduled it through his lawyer. 6 months after he found out, James started working as a consultant with my company on a strategic project. I don't know if it was intentional or coincidence, but every meeting I had to sit through where he presented his recommendations, I wanted to disappear. He was professional. He was brilliant. He made eye contact with me the same way he did with everyone else, distant, polite, devoid of the warmth that used to be there. But that was worse than if he'd been cruel. Cruelty would have meant he still felt something. This indifference meant he'd erased me completely. I was a business problem to solve, not a person he'd loved. I spiraled. I started calling him at night, drunk, begging him to talk to me. Begging him to understand that I'd made a mistake, that I loved him, that I wanted to fix it. He blocked my number. His lawyer sent a cease and desist letter saying any further contact would be considered harassment. That's when I realized there was nothing to fix. I hadn't broken our relationship. I'd ended it. There's a difference. Breaking something implies it can be repaired. I'd obliterated it. My parents found out next. Not from me. From James's mother, who told everyone at their church. My mom stopped calling. My dad wouldn't look at me when I visited. I became the cautionary tale at family dinners, the daughter they'd shake their heads about. My brother told me I'd embarrassed the family. My sister-in-law, who'd always been kind to me, started making excuses for why I couldn't come to holidays. I was toxic. I was a liability. I was the girl who cheated on a good man and deserved whatever came next. I quit my job before they could fire me. The shame was suffocating. Every time I walked into the office, I could feel people's eyes on me, their judgment, their contempt. I moved back in with my parents, which was its own special kind of humiliation at 32 years old. I had a college degree, a career, and I was sleeping in my childhood bedroom while my mother made pointed comments about trust and commitment at dinner. The worst part was that no one believed my version of anything anymore. I became the girl who'd lied before, so of course everything I said was suspect. When I tried to explain that David had been manipulative, that he'd leveraged his position to seduce me, people rolled their eyes. I'd made my choice. I'd gotten what I deserved. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was just a cheater trying to rewrite history, trying to make myself the victim instead of the villain. I'd told so many lies that the truth didn't matter anymore. I tried to rebuild. I got a job at a different company, moved to a different city, deleted all my social media so I could start fresh. But there's no starting fresh when you're carrying this kind of reputation with you. People Google you. People find out. And even if they don't, you know. You know what you did. You know that you had someone who loved you, who was loyal to you, who would have built a life with you, and you threw it away because you wanted to feel special for 6 weeks. I saw James once, about 2 years after everything fell apart. He was at a coffee shop with a woman I didn't recognize. She was laughing at something he said, and he had his hand on her back, and they looked happy. They looked the way James and I used to look before I poisoned everything. He saw me at the counter. For a moment, we made eye contact. There was no anger in his face. There was no pain. There was recognition, like running into someone from high school who'd moved away years ago and you have nothing to say to them anymore. He smiled politely and looked away. That smile destroyed me more than any confrontation ever could. It meant I was irrelevant. It meant he'd moved on completely, that the years we spent together had been edited out of his life. And I deserved that. I earned that. I'd paid for my 6 weeks of feeling special with a lifetime of irrelevance. I'm 35 now. I have a decent job. I have an apartment. I date sometimes, but it never goes anywhere because I can't shake the knowledge of what I'm capable of. I can't trust myself. And if I can't trust myself, how can anyone else? I check my boyfriend's phone sometimes, looking for betrayal, because I know how easy it is to hide one. I wait for him to cheat on me, because I believe I deserve it. I'm not redeemed. I'm not healed. I'm just someone who destroyed something beautiful and has to live every day knowing that the damage is permanent. James blocked me everywhere years ago. I don't even know if he's married to that woman, or if he has kids, or if he ever thinks about me at all. I probably don't cross his mind once a year. And that's the cruelest thing about consequences, they're not infinite. The person you hurt gets to move on and forget about you. You're the one stuck carrying it forever. I tell this story because maybe someone reading it will recognize themselves. Maybe you're flirting with someone who isn't your partner. Maybe you're telling yourself it's harmless. Maybe your friends are making you feel like you deserve better, and maybe you're starting to believe them. Maybe you're thinking about crossing a line that you've told yourself you'll never cross. I'm here to tell you, the line is closer than you think, and once you cross it, there's no going back. The person you betray doesn't owe you forgiveness. They owe you nothing. And you'll spend the rest of your life knowing that the best thing you had walked away from you because of who you decided to be for 45 minutes. It wasn't worth it. It will never be worth it. And no matter how much time passes, I'll still be the girl who destroyed something beautiful because she wanted to feel special. That knowledge never goes away. It just gets quieter. And somehow, that's worse.